Okay, in this video I'm going to be talking about setting up the project. So as we have seen in the class, it's simple as going to the project window, and that is going to be on the menu, on the file menu. So creating a new project is going to go there on the project window. The other one is below that one is to open the project. And in order to create a project, the only thing that we need to do is hit on new, say the name of the project, and say where we want to save it. Because the rest of the files are going to be just fine by default, so just hit accept in there. Now, when you open that folder in Windows, it's going to look like a mess. It's going to have a bunch of different folders that we're not going to be using, at least for the purpose of this class. And most likely the only two that you want to keep are scenes and source images. The workspace.mel, it's a file written in Maya script language. That is going to pretty much just tell Maya, you know, these are the files or the folders in which you're going to be finding the files that you care about. So that in mind, how do I clean my submission? So after I modified my shape and I did a lot of transformations onto them, I'm gonna end up with transformations in this panel. So I am the channel layer box panel, and over here there's a bunch of things that I need to modify. So for the sake of this example, I actually translated these to a different position other than 0. So let's say that this is the new 0 that I want to have this thing. Also, the other thing that I need to take a look at is going to be the naming convention for my homework assignments or whatever project I'm working on, and then the history of the object. So all of these things are going to make my file larger, and that can actually lead into issues whenever I'm importing this into a game engine or trying to import this into a different scene. So the most important thing in here would be work with the naming convention, freeze the transformations, and delete the history. So in order to work with the naming convention, we're going to be using SM. That is going to be the prefix of static meshes, and that's an Unreal Engine convention. So I'm just going to be following that one in here. The only thing you need to do is select the object and then change the name of the object. So not a big deal. For cleaning or freezing the transformations, what you need to do is go to Modify, Freeze Transforms, and that is going to clean up this area over here. All of these guys needs to be zeroed out, and these needs to be at 1. So the scale is going to be 1, 1, 1, and the rest there's going to be no translation and no rotation. Next is going to be clean up the history, and in order to do that, once again, you select the object, go to Edit, Delete by Type History, and that is going to get rid of this area. So with that in mind, that is going to be a good submission. So that is how this thing is going to look like. Now, preparing for the submission depends a lot on the description for the assignment that you're submitting. In some cases, the only thing that I need is the very last backup file that you're working with. So if I had box 1 to 6 all the way here, the only one that I care about is going to be box 0006. In most cases, you will either submit an MB file or an MA file, depending on how you save your Maya, as file as ASCII or binary. So this is the only file that I care about. In some other cases, what you will need to do is submit textures alongside with the project. So for that purpose, in that case, I will ask you to make a copy of that file, paste that in the source images, and then zip these 3 files up. So box, example, well, again, this is the example for these 2 textures. Most likely you will have a bunch of them, or just 1 or 2 being the most common ones. So zipping up the project with the 3 files that I mentioned here would be the case in this particular scene. So once again, it doesn't matter if it's an MB file or an MA file, but chances are that when you zip it up, you will need to follow the naming convention. So depending on your teacher, it will have something like project Bobadilla L, or Bobadilla L underscore project, so last name, first letter of your first name, and then the project name. So follow the naming conventions that are in the Maya files. So just by looking at these, I know that there is a discrepancy between my naming convention on the rubric for the first homework assignment and the one that I'm showing you here. It really depends on the teacher preferences. So follow the naming convention that they have over here. In some cases, when you sort this by name, if you say P01 or P whatever, it's going to be given preference to the file and then to the student. Depending on how the teacher likes to sort these things, probably they're going to give it more weight to try to keep all of the students' work together, and then the projects, or giving preference to the project. So that really depends on teachers' preferences. Always be sure to check the the naming convention of your file. So in this case, I'm going to be working with just this project naming convention. Again, this is wrong in contrast to the description that you will find in the first document. So always be sure to check those before you zip it up and submit it. So it may vary from project to project, but the most important part would be follow the naming convention and make sure that you are submitting the right things to the Dropbox. So that is it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.